Again, we're just about to start, and thank you for joining the ECA Bay Area Regional Online Workshop. My name is Mark Benthien. I'm the Executive Director of Earthquake Country Alliance statewide, and I'm pleased to introduce to you the chairs of ECA Bay Area, Daniel Holmesy and Dina Gunning.
Great, thanks Mark, and welcome everybody. I'm so glad you could join us today. We are excited to have you here, and we have a really great agenda planned for you for this morning. Just a brief introduction, Earthquake Country Alliance, we're a grassroots organization, and we have so many wonderful people that are part of this organization and all of the work that we do in outreach and education for the ShakeOut drill, annual drill, and just preparedness year round. So we're very appreciative. We're going into the 9th and 10th year, Mark, this year, right? Is this our—
Oh, we're already, well, the Bay Area, it's maybe the 10th or 11th, but 12th.
Right. We lose track over the years, right? But we have our local regional alliances, of course, and state, and we are funded by the California Office of Emergency Services and FEMA for all our ECA activities. So we're very appreciative to have the support, and USC Southern California Earthquake Center, Mark and Sharon, especially support staff, does an amazing job. We have our ECA Bay Area Coordinating Committee members. I'm not going to go into everybody for the membership. You'll get a chance to meet most of us in our breakout sessions, but we do have an opening. So if you are interested, you can email bayarea@earthquakecountry.org, and Sharon can give you all the details to help join us in the great work that we do.
Dina, Daniel is with us now too.
Oh, good. Perfect. So Daniel, I'll let you take it in a second here. Our agenda for today, we're so lucky to have Vance Taylor from the California Governor's Office of Emergency Services doing California's model for integrated emergency planning. And then we'll go to ShakeOut in Place with Mark and how we're doing our earthquake drills during COVID-19. And then we'll have our breakout groups. And the question of the day is, how are you adapting to ShakeOut this year? And then at the end, we'll come back together in the general session and do report outs from the breakout groups. So with that, Daniel, would you like to introduce Vance?
Absolutely, it'd be an honor. So again, hello everyone, Daniel Holmesy with the City and County of San Francisco. I'm the Director of the Neighborhood Empowerment Network Initiative. And thank you all for taking the time to join us today. I'm sure everyone has a lot going on, and we value your time, and we're gonna try and make the very most of it this morning. And with that, we'd like to now, of course, introduce Vance Taylor from the California Office of Emergency Services. And many of you already know and are familiar with his very important and incredible work in advising the governor and CalOES leadership on the important actions and steps that need to be in place and be taken to ensure the health and safety and well-being of every resident and guest here in the city, in the state of California. And so I just also consider him to be a dear and close friend and my consigliere on getting out there every day and doing good work. And I'm sure all of us are going to take advantage of this chance to hear from him directly. And I will yield the floor to him, Vance Taylor.
Hey, thanks, Dan. I appreciate it. Thank you for the intro and your friendship and partnership, and thank you to Mark and the group. Appreciate what everybody here does and the way you lean forward. I'm always a big believer and proponent of the fact that none of us can do this alone, right? This is so much bigger than any one group or entity or individual, but it's when we work together that ultimately we're able to have good outcomes for people. And that's important. So I have some slides I'm trying to share. It's telling me that the host disabled the participant screen sharing.
I'm sorry, Vance.
So you might just have my bug to look at.
You're now able. You should be able to.
All right. Well, this is gonna save everybody from having to stare at me and my quarantine do as I I call it. All right, let's see here if I got this right. I'm going to hit share. And then you guys let me know. All right, can we see this?
Yes.
Fantastic. All right, so I just want to talk about California's model for integrated emergency planning. You know, the reality here is that we find we tend to kind of have three main areas where in looking at integrated emergency planning, there tend to be challenges consistently, regardless of the disaster. And it's communication, transportation, and sheltering. By way of perspective, I think it's important to understand, you know, to really understand where we've been in order to know where we are. For us, I think we take it all the way back to Hurricane Katrina, right? Because it put a very, very bright light on the fact that there have traditionally been inequities in the way that we plan and prepare and respond and recover from disasters. We saw in Hurricane Katrina that 70% of everybody who perished had an access or a functional need. And it was one of those startling realities that made it so you couldn't deny what we had thought we knew. Now, I want to say that it's important to understand that people plan from their perspective, right? Nobody tries to leave anybody out. What you had across the country, good emergency managers, good people trying to do good things. But you know, we all come at things from our own perspective. And so, for example, when I go into a room, because I use a wheelchair, I'm scanning that room for access, right? I'm looking, is there a ramp? Are there stairs? Is there going to be cluttered in the aisles? Can I get through? And I really do that almost at a subconscious level. But if you don't have the lived experience of life in a wheelchair, then probably when you come into a room, you're not looking for those things. And so when you take these emergency managers who are oftentimes former military or officers or first responders, again, wonderful people, but individuals who typically don't have that lived experience, then some the plans that were getting put together were leaving out members of our whole community. And so the plan would say, hey, when you evacuate, you're gonna, we're just gonna send a bunch of school buses and everybody gets on them. Well, that's great, unless somebody in a wheelchair shows up and they can't get on that bus, right? And then there's that sense of, I'm not even on your radar, right? The people that are supposed to be planning for my safety and security aren't considering my needs. And this message was sent inadvertently. But somehow, you know, as an individual with a disability, you know, my life doesn't value as much. And it was that sense of marginalization. And so in California, we wanted to get over that. Then we recognized that that was a real gap. And so California, you know, did what California does, was lean forward. The governor recognizing that it's not just in major disasters that these inequities occur. It's in every disaster, regardless of size. The governor created the Office of Access and Functional Needs. And placed at its head a gubernatorial appointed chief that's a senior level executive reporting directly to the director and the governor. My role as chief is really twofold. It's to identify what are the needs before, during, and after disaster, and then how do we integrate those needs? For us, I think that the answer largely lies in the partnerships, right? Because as I said earlier, no one of us owns this. You know, I'm a big believer in the adage that we will succeed or we will fail, but we will do it together. And so that's why partnerships like this one are so critical and important, because it literally takes a whole of community approach in order to get this right. And I think if we are starting to have some pretty significant lessons learned from COVID, that's one of them, right? That it's not just government, right? It's neighbors helping neighbors. It's this notion that in order for us to be in a place with positive outcomes, each of us has to find a way to pause and bend and lift another, or we're just not going to make it. I told you the three areas that we kind of look at. One's communication. Obviously, during a disaster, communication is hugely important, right? If there's an earthquake, I got to know the what and the where, and the should I shelter in place, should I evacuate? And that's got to come in multiple formats, right? Because we all receive communication differently. That's why we have to have ASL interpretation, right? We don't all speak the same language, so that's why we want foreign language translation. Some people are blind, so things like alternative formats become really important. Plain text, all of this is key, and I really want to give kudos to Mark and the team. You know, the Earthquake Country Alliance materials aren't just in English, right? They come in Spanish and many, many other languages. And I put a link in here. I think this is a very good example of what we've been preaching and teaching, and what we find is that when groups like this lean forward, it not only helps information get out to the masses, but I think it also helps change the culture of emergency management and what we're doing. So thank you for that. On the transportation and evacuation front, I mean, but the reality is people have to be aware they got to get out and where they need to go. Counties need to have memorandums of understanding in place so that they can pull that trigger 24/7 with accessible transportation providers, of which there are very few. And they need to have those agreements with jurisdictions outside of their immediate county. And we need to be asking ourselves, in terms of expediency, are we moving faster? Right? Because the answer should always be yes. When we shelter in place, we need to be thinking about things like food storage and medicine and our support networks. Who's going to assist us? How's that going to work? Yeah, Daniel, on the tremendous work that his team does on this, neighborhood trust and neighbors helping neighbors, and it is so important because I tell people, prepare so no one's coming for you. Because government can't do all things for all people. There's simply more people that need a wellness check than there are government officials that are able to do those checks. But when you empower a neighborhood, right? When you empower a community, that's when you really, you see a decrease in lives lost and a decrease in human suffering. When you do go into a sheltering operation, our driver is to always make it accessible, not just physically, right? Can I get in? Can I get around? But programmatically. I mean, there are all kinds of programs and services that exist, and they all need to be accessible, right? We need to be able to access medicine. We need to access care tenant support and cots that are accessible and showers that are accessible, and these resources that enable us to maintain not just our health and our security and our safety, but our dignity. And that's essential. But successful sheltering does not happen without planning and partnership. And that's with government agencies, CBOs, and our stakeholders. We don't separate people from their support systems, right? We keep people together. Now, I've got a web library that's got 1 million resources on it or more. If you want in-depth, detailed information on that, please check out our web library. With that, I'm going to close out by saying thank you. And I'm going to stop sharing my screen. And if there are any questions, I'm happy to tackle those.
Great. Thank you so much, Vance. And Mark, are we going to open it up for questions?
We do have a question already from Phyllis Hathorn. Phyllis, I don't know if you want to turn your mic and camera on and ask directly, or I could read it for you.
I can ask. So we are a healthcare facility, and we want to make sure we're prepared to assist our patients with disabilities. So if you can just name 3 must-haves or must-things we need in place before emergency for our patients with disabilities, that'd be great.
Yeah, I mean, let me just give you some, and if it's more than 3, forgive me. But people need to have written down and on their person things like what medicines they take, or what the phone number is for the doctor, who their support network is, right? Is that a son, a daughter, a friend, a spouse, someone else? You need to have in place a transportation plan, right? So look, at medical facilities, we're really good at evacuating. When evacuation means going across the street, right? We can get everybody out of that building across the street. But when you have to leave the county, right, that's different. And when you have to do it quickly, right, that's also very problematic. And so that plan needs to be in place. You've got to have those transportation resources set up. You've got to set up MOUs. And then you've got to have agreements with your sister agencies of where you're going to take people, right? If you're a licensed facility, you're not going to go to the general population shelter. You're going to go to a like facility. And that surge plan's got to be in place.
Thank you, Vance. If anyone else has questions, you can either.
Can I add one thing to Vance's comments just really quickly? Is building on Vance's very good points is I highly recommend you explore having the ability to generate power independently of whatever grid you're attached to. So that's a key lesson learned in the work we're doing in Cloverdale, California. If you do have residents and you're a multi-story facility, make sure that your staff is proficient in helping people evacuate out of the second story if they have mobility issues. And also make sure that the residents actually are aware of what your evacuation plans are as well, so they can comply and contribute. And then lastly, another step we're taking in the Cloverdale community right now is connecting the site managers with the local first responders charged with the evacuation, and making sure that your evacuation process lines up with what their evacuation process is. So reach out to your local emergency management or first responder community and say, who can come to our site and look at what our strategy is, and make sure that it syncs up with what their strategy is, so that you don't end up on the wrong side of the building or setting yourself up to a point where you're going to be on the curb and the buses have already left town. That can move people out. So I would just add that to Vance's very good points as well. Thank you.
Yeah, Daniel, I would agree totally with that. Working with your emergency management is critically important. We're working on that now with all of our critical facilities that we would potentially have to evacuate. So we have all those listings, the contacts, and as we say over and over again, it's about building up those relationships ahead of time. So to Vance's point, you know, especially around the transportation issue, you need to know who and when and where and how to contact those people 24/7. So as emergency management, that's on our end as well, is to work through that process so that we know and can identify prior to an incident.
Yeah,
Are there
spot
any
on.
questions for Vance, or comment, Vance, if you have a response?
No, I was just saying spot on. It's really great additions. Thank you.
And there, just if you haven't seen in the chat, there have been requests for the presentation and the and the recording. Both will be on the website where you've signed up for the workshop at earthquakecountry.org/Bay Area within about a week. The recording of the whole meeting, and also copies of the presentations. So any
Awesome.
last questions to Vance before we move on?
Mark, if anything comes up afterwards, please just send me an email.
Yes, good point too. Everybody can
I'll do it
also
that way.
email questions to bayarea@earthquakecountry.org, and we will forward those to Vance or others on the call.
Excellent. I'm sorry I got to head out early, but I sure appreciate the opportunity to be with you this morning.
Thank you, Vance, so much for your time. It's always a pleasure to have you with us.
Thanks. Take care.
Okay. So next on the agenda, Mark is going to shake out in place. So
Here I go. I'm going to go down under my desk, right? And that might be what your experience of ShakeOut is actually kind of like this year. So I'm just going to give you an overview of some of the thoughts we have, and then we're all going to have discussions about how we adapt ShakeOut and earthquake drills this year because of COVID. And, you know, I'm kind of multitasking here. So last year, ShakeOut had record-breaking participation in California with 10.8 million people across the country and around the world. It was fantastic. The continued growth and expansion of ShakeOut participation, and not only that people are participating, but really the surveys we do, they're reporting that they're doing more each year, or new things each year. And that aspect of doing something new and different each year is particularly meaningful this year. Every year you can be doing something new and different, and that's always good for exercises and drills. If you do the same drill year after year after year, you're only practicing for that particular situation. Now, while ShakeOut's International ShakeOut Day is on October 15th, the third Thursday of October each year, this year, October 15th, you really can have your drill on any day, and we're really going to talk about that. You know, if you have never participated in ShakeOut, if you're new to California or just joining, There's a really basic aspect of what it normally can be. You register your drill on the website. You plan your drill using the materials that we have on the website. I'll show you some. Let people know what you're doing and your participants in your organization or your community or your family. You hold your drill. You do a simple drop, cover, hold on drill for a minute. You do something extra on top of that if you want, or hold a full-scale exercise. And then you share what you've learned on social media. ShakeOut, hashtag ShakeOut is trending each year on ShakeOut Day. It's really incredible to see. And really could see the pictures of people doing the drill across the country and around the world and sharing all the innovative and creative things they do. And that really is always great to see what you all bring to ShakeOut. We set up the structure, you make it happen in your own way. Now, of course, earthquakes aren't always going to happen at 10:15 in the morning on a Thursday, the way that ShakeOut is always on a Thursday. You really want to think about how you might choose alternative dates, maybe even multiple dates for your organization. Maybe you don't want to have, if you're a large organization and you do have a lot of people still together in person, you don't want to have everyone, if you have evacuation as part of your plan, evacuating together. You can break it down into smaller cohorts, have multiple drills. And it's always good to plan your ShakeOut day on drill, maybe on a different day or time, to have that kind of test of different situations. And the earthquakes don't always happen when everyone is together at work or school. And of course, we're not all necessarily all together this year either. So when we say ShakeOut in place, we really do mean where you are, ShakeOut in the place where you are. Because the earthquake's always going to, the earthquake you experience, you're always going to experience where you are. You're not, I mean, it's kind of an obvious statement, but it's always where you are. You're not practicing for a drill somewhere where you aren't when you practice getting down under something. And so wherever you are, whether you're working from home, whether you're on site, whether you're in school or not, or traveling, it's always great to practice in different situations. You can see some of the graphics we've been showing. These are on the website, and where you can get some more of the details, what we're suggesting. But one of the main suggestions that we have, and a lot of people are saying this is what they're going to do, is have their drill via video conferencing through remote connections, maybe through Zoom like this, or through other providers. All the many versions that people are using, Microsoft Teams and Google Meet and all those. And maybe you're even taking a screenshot of everybody doing the drill together for posting afterward. But really key is to have some introduction to what you're going to do, to take the action of protecting yourself, and then have discussions afterwards. What if we look around in the space we are, what might fall on us that we could secure in advance of the actual earthquake happening? And this could happen during online classes. And schools across the state, across the country are saying they're going to be doing this during staff meetings that might be remote, and in other type of venues. And importantly, if you are in person, if you are still having an in-person drill, or maybe there's a hybrid where some are in the office and some are connected remotely, in a drill situation, you want to be mindful of the COVID recommendations and the CDC recommendations, et cetera. Have the ample space, wear masks, personal protective equipment, all of those type of standard recommendations. The key thing is, if in a real earthquake were to happen now, you're not going to want to make sure everyone first moves 6 feet apart from everybody. And that's, if you don't have your mask, that you're running to try to get your mask first and doing these things. You want to really protect yourself instantly. If perhaps you got an earthquake early warning message, you want to protect yourself instantly. You want to drop, cover, hold on. And if you end up being next to someone for a short time, that may be better than being hit by things and being injured. So we want to minimize that time connection, or that you're next to people, and maybe you want to try to face, not be right face to face. But in a real earthquake, you want to still protect yourself the regular way, or and not take time out to make sure that you do what you might do in a drill, where you would maintain social distancing and all those factors. The key thing is that everyone can shake out. Vance Taylor from California Office of Emergency Services, Office of Disabilities Integration, it was just sharing about how everyone needs to be involved in planning for exercises, and the particular needs of everyone needs to be included in that planning. And you want to involve everyone in your organization. And really, you want to not assume what the right plan is for them, but you want to include people who are using wheelchairs or other devices, or have disabilities and access and functional needs in the planning of your drill. Ask them, what's the best way that would work for you, and know that, and make sure everybody knows that's their aspect of the plan. And as Vance mentioned, we do have a number of resources at earthquakecountry.org/disability, guides to take our standard 7 steps to earthquake safety and adapt those them for people with disabilities, and a video that shows what to do in 6 different situations that you can watch or download there. A lot of great material. And if you haven't seen, we do have messaging that takes the standard drop, cover, hold on guidance and adapts that for if you're using a wheelchair or walker and it has brakes or a lock that you want to lock your wheels and bend over, cover your head and neck. If you can't get down on the ground and get back up again on your own, then just stay seated or sit down and do as people would do using a wheelchair, and practice all of this together so that everybody knows what to do. We do have on our YouTube channel here, youtube.com/greatshakeout, and also at shakeout.org/messaging, our earthquake safety video series. This is great lead up to your drills where people can really see what to do and how to practice earthquake safety in different situations. And again, we do have one that has 6 different situations for people with disabilities, but what to do if there is a table, if there's not a table, if you're near the shore, if you're in bed, if you're driving, if you're in a theater, whenever that might happen again, where you can be in a theater. So all those, or if you're in a lecture hall, kind of the different adaptations to the general messaging. Speaking of the messaging, make sure you check out the resources page, and we have linked from the home page to a new resource, but particularly for the COVID information and a flyer here that you can share about what to be doing. We are also working on a PowerPoint set that we're going to be posting for different organization types, for schools, for businesses, for families, other organizations, to really help you lead an online drill or even in person using this. A very basic introduction about what ShakeOut is. There will be slides about how to drop, cover, hold on for the different group, kind of age appropriate. There will be a link to the drill broadcast where it plays a 1-minute narrated recording with some sound effects. So it's a great way to play that over video conferencing. It really kind of gives a start and a stop to the drill and has great messaging within it. And then finally, it ends with a series of questions you can have to follow up with your drill participants and really be thinking through what's the next step. How do we secure things so they won't fall on us? How can we have better plans for getting our supplies together? What are we going to do if power was out and you can't get to cash out of an ATM? Just all those different factors that are great, simple questions that you can, in conversation you can have after your drill or as part of the end of your drill. Okay, so that's kind of like where we are at in terms of guidance from ShakeOut more centrally. But what we're really hearing from and people who are registering this year and describing their plans are a lot of great ideas and innovative ways that they are adapting their drill this year for ShakeOut. And we want to open this up to all of you to have some discussions on this. And so the main question that we're going to have here, and I'll turn this to, I think Daniel, if we, yes, okay.
Mark, what are we going to be talking about in the breakout room?
Just one second. Thank you. I'm also coordinating who's in the breakout rooms. Okay.
Mark, there are dinosaurs on this dinosaur tour, right?
So yeah, the main topic that is for the breakout rooms are going to be how are you adapting your ShakeOut this year? And I realize that for some of you, you haven't thought about this yet. So it's part of it's a discussion, it's a brainstorm, but some of you may have ideas. And we're fortunate to have a fantastic coordinating committee for the Bay Area and partners from CalOES who are going to be helping to host the breakout rooms and lead these discussions. And the goal is to come up with 2 or 3 great ideas that will then be reported back afterwards. So while this is the main question, there are some additional aspects that you might consider as part of the discussion we're about to have. So that's, what will you do this year for ShakeOut? Where will you have your ShakeOut? Who will you include? How are you going to plan that? And of course, how are you going to adapt those plans in light of the pandemic with everybody perhaps in different places? Okay, I believe everyone is back from the breakout rooms, and I was able to drop in and see how all the discussion was going. It was really great, and look forward to hearing the reports now. So we'll go through each of the rooms, and you'll have about a minute to share great ideas. And if someone says your idea from another room, you can just share another idea, perhaps that was there. And everyone's welcome to have your camera on, remain muted if you can. If you want to add something onto your report, your host's report, if you're in that room, feel free. We have time here. So I'm going to start with Daniel Holmesy from room 1.
Hello, everyone. Yes, we had a really great conversation. We had Inez, who is joining us from the Alameda Library team, and apparently there are many members of her team joining today's breakout conversation. So she elevated that. One idea that she had was, certainly if there's online engagement going on, such as remote learning or presentations, it might be fun to actually provide the presenter with a virtual background that could all of a sudden begin to like shake and have debris falling, and make that sort of a pop-up shakeout exercise and see if people might be able to take the appropriate steps if all of a sudden there was that type of activity within an online convening. And then Michael shared that he lives in a building with a lot of potentially vulnerable residents here in the city in the middle of a liquefaction zone. And he really would like to work more closely with the property management company to conduct drills and exercises and educate people, just because of the location of their building. There's a very good chance if there's an earthquake that it might be very difficult to possibly safely evacuate the building. So he feels that we should be working more closely with the property management companies here in San Francisco. So I thought those were 2 fantastic ideas.
Thank you, Daniel. And if you could, and all the coordinators, if you did have any chat, hopefully you save that and can send to me, or just email us your ideas too. That'd be great. And then that's open for everybody on today's call. If you would like to share your ideas to get into the overall notes, you can email Bay Area at earthquakecountry.org, Bay Area at earthquakecountry.org. And before we continue, just while you're still on the call too, at the workshop webpage at earthquakecountry.org/Bay Area, as shown on the screen right now, if I were sharing, I'll just share this briefly. Just a second. At earthquakecountry.org/Bay Area is where you'll find the survey for today's meeting. So click on the September 10th, and then near the bottom of the page, you'll find the link to the survey. And we really appreciate, after we end here, that you complete that survey. It will take you 5 to 7 minutes max. Okay, so now we'll continue on with Dina Gunning or Sherry Blankenheim from room 2.
Great, thanks, Mark. Yeah, you know, we had the discussion about so many people working from home and getting outreach via social media, and we talked about the Zoom meetings as well, maybe having an actual Zoom participation. And I like your background right now. You switched to the shaking background. That was quick.
I did,
Um,
yes.
That's a great idea. And then talked about like having a blog with the direct links. We had a little bit of discussion about that, how it's important for us to kind of sort through some of the information and take people directly to the pages that we want them to or what they're looking for, which is a great thing that we can do with the ECA website, because we can direct people, whether it's the disabilities page or schools or things like that. I always bring up my pet photo of pets drop, covering, and holding. Is always a cute idea. And then, you know, doing that outreach in all the different medias and looking at what's appropriate for our children at this point, and getting the inclusions through teachers and through education. And they're going through so much right now, but how to do something just basic and mentioning so that we all know as soon as we involve our children that our children are really good about getting us parents to do things, right? So that's always a good way to go. But yeah, we've all been working from home for so long. Some of us are back in the office, and how we're going to include folks in the office has been a discussion. And you know, just getting them involved, emails or things, and start the ball rolling and having those discussions now. Anything else?
Thank you,
Gary?
Dina.
You think
Awesome.
that's it?
Thank you. So now we'll move to room 3 and Leah Turk.
Hi, everyone. We had the suggestion of doing a drill combined with the local CERT team, the Community Emergency Response Team. And Patricia from Los Altos shared how her neighborhood did the drill, but focused not so much on the drill itself, but on the aftermath and checking in on the neighborhood and the neighbors after the damage, the potential damage had happened. They might do this as a virtual drill, but they might also socially distance in small teams and go through an actual walk through the neighborhood. They're going to focus on communications in particular, and they also have ham radio teams involved with their CERT communications to the city. That was one great idea. And then we had a participant all the way from Atlanta, Georgia, who works for the federal government, and they're going to be using the loudspeaker and doing drills within their building complex, but make it virtual as well. Pretty much everyone seems to be doing virtual. And then we had someone suggesting that the folks that are working from home perhaps have not really thought about earthquake preparedness in the same way as they would if they were in their office. So just adapting it to the work from home scenario. That was pretty much it.
Awesome.
Thanks.
That's great. Really great ideas. Thank you, Leah. Next up is room 4 and Janet Ruiz.
Thanks, Mark. We had a good variety. We had 2 folks, one from large North Bay County and one from that represents 3 cities in the Bay Area. And they are both going to do the combination of those who are back at work and those who are at home. We talked about how to engage people at home, and rather than just send an email asking them to do it, have them respond back to what did they learn. Was there something in their home that they realized they need to move or change, you know, take off the wall? Is there something that they did different at home than at work? And then we had a great discussion about one of our people in the room. It's her and her mom, and her mom has a ton of knickknacks. And we talked about the work that it will take to put the putty under every knickknack, because right now they're on doilies. And I said, well, let's start with what's closest to where she spends most of her time. So we really talked about your point of wherever you are. And that's what really happens during an earthquake anyway. They're not always when you're at work or when you're at school. So I think talking about wherever you are and doing it that way was a big topic for us in our room.
Thank you, Janet. Next up, we have room 5 and Terry Langdon.
Hello. So we had great discussion as well, and a lot of things were covered already, such as the Zoom meetings. One of the things that was brought up that I thought was a good idea is sharing the screens as well as the videos that you have available prior to, and doing planning along with the group instead of just at that one moment, doing it some kind of a planning, making it interactive and engaging, and where people can share ideas as well. We also had some people that were thinking that maybe it's time we do a physical, because we were doing so much virtually, that maybe a physical drill might work, and it would be good for people to, as long as we keep all the social distancing and COVID considerations. So we're thinking doing something that's
So actually using it to get people together. That's great.
Yeah, exactly. Because, and even to go outdoors or something like that.
Right.
Because we are all been stuck inside so long, or just tired of that kind of thing. But I think the working with your families as well, maybe different hours too. It doesn't have to be 10 o'clock in the morning, but maybe have a drill in the middle of the night with your family saying, this is what we did. And making sure you take pictures and share that, what happened. Did I get it pretty good?
Yeah, that's great. Thank you very much, Terry. Next is room 6 with Kevin Miller from CalOES.
I think, yeah, we had some good discussion and ideas. There are some organizations that have students, and they were talking about including the drill as a Zoom part of their non-core instruction. And the question came up about whether to let them know ahead of time, and that may be a good idea, so they can either practice or know that this is going to be happening and can participate from wherever they are. And there are, much like CalOES, there are people working both in the office and from home. And so practicing much to the theme that has been discussed wherever you are, whether it's at work or at home. And Allie was representing she works with a library. So they were also talking about using Zoom and recordings of Zoom. So good sharing of those ideas. And then also it was brought up from Alice, who's a geologist. What she tends to look at is how are you going to practice, or what hazards you may look for when you're outside. So working outside, power lines, staying away from buildings, and where to find some of those resources, since we're all, maybe outside a little bit more, and there are students. That's something that could be a potential focus.
Thanks, Kevin. And for everyone, one key resource, of course, is the earthquakecountry.org website, the 7 steps to earthquake safety. And step 5 really talks about what to do in all the different situations, maybe not all, but many situations that you might find yourself in, including outdoors, has the videos and other resources that we talked about and other materials. So next up, room 7, David Cosgrave from Coastside Cal Fire.
Thank you, Mark. You put me with a power group. They were telemarketing in or telecommuting in from all over the nation, and they all have mostly have multiple sites that they manage or deal with.
Great.
One of the things we came up with, or that was there, is one of the agencies. They're going to do it on their own now, where they usually get participation from other agencies to come in and help them. So they're going to be kind of sheltering in place and not mixing other agencies to come into their facilities. Other ones we talked about, everyone's on all these Zoom meetings so often, about having the breakout meetings with the managers in advance. So they have facility managers so they can have an advanced thing to prep them for it. They could do a shakeout right then and then do it again on the 15th with more confidence, right? So just set that time. And we talked about just ways that how they would count the participation, right? If they're not making it mandatory for people that are at home, but just some incentives and to get the word out. One of the groups, and I saved the chat because I thought I was going to keep all the names. I'm bad with names, but I don't see that chat in front of me right now. But one of them was going to have people email in afterwards what inventory of items they had to prepare that they would have had after the earthquake. So that was all good. I shared what my group's going to do. Again, going back to what Leah said, our CERT group is going to have neighborhood participation where we're going to do a webinar at 10 o'clock we're going to do it on 10/10 because more people at home and volunteers available on a Saturday. So we're going to do it at 10 o'clock. We're going to start a webinar, and it's going to be earthquake preparedness and about the drill. And at 10:15, there's going to be an earthquake. And Sherry Kidd asked where you can get the backdrop that you had that showed the earthquake. Where do we get a hold of something like that, Mark?
It's a hot item.
Yeah, so no, it's a great suggestion, and I think what we're going to be doing is figuring out what we can put publicly for others to share. This I've shown two now. This is from the original Southern California shakeout earthquake scenario. There are versions for the Bay Area too, for like Haywire earthquake and San Andreas earthquake, actually showing the ground rupture. The kitchen video I showed, the 3D animation, and we'll see if that can be shared broadly too. But there are also many other videos. We have a collection of actual earthquakes from around the world, CCTV, closed caption TV, and we may be able to organize some of those for people to use. So it's a really great suggestion. We'll have that on the ShakeOut website.
That'd be useful too, if I can use that on my webinar to have the earthquake. The kitchen one was a lot better. That last one was making me seasick. I had to look away from you. I'm not gonna lie. But then our participation, some people just want to watch the webinar and that counts, right? But other people want to get their information all the way down to the DOC. So we're going to have the FRS radio to the ham radios. And my information I want for damage assessment from all the neighborhoods is how many people participated. They have an hour to get me that information. So
that's great.
My end of the drill is easy. They have the hard part. So
awesome. Well, thank you. And let's move to room 8 and Wendy Ellis.
Hi, in room 8, we had Jennifer, Janice, Tony, Erica, and Cheryl. And we came from Nevada to Riverside. So we had a wide range of people in the East Bay and all the way down south and in Marin County. We also had representatives from Human Resources, Education, the library, and CERT. Now, everybody wants that background, Mark. You're going to have to tell them where to get it. I just wanted to let you know that, but everyone seems to be doing this virtually. They're going to do it virtually because most people are not back to work or their businesses are not actively open. Tony was able to bring some, from using the website, he was able to bring a lot of information to the school board. And although the schools are not open, it caused them to look at supplies and some updates to that system. In addition, Janice they're going to do it virtually. She's thinking of doing something where they have a meeting, and during the meeting, she starts shaking in her chair. But I think she'd really benefit from having that background. So we're going to have the shakeout that way. And I also have everyone take pictures of their shelter in place with their family and use that to make a collage as part of a thank you to the group for everything they've done. Which I would then mention, you have a form, or not a form, a certificate on the website that I used when we had a shelter, the shakeout activity, and gave everyone a certificate of participation.
That's right. So if you register and for shakeout, then you'll have access to that certificate, and you can download it and then make custom versions for everyone in your organization. Now, there's also a question about from Cindy Pridmore with California Geological Survey. Just want to answer right now. Any suggestions on how to register for shakeout this year? Should we register in employees as in the past, or should we have employees register individually? We really do suggest that if you're organizing an activity with those employees, that you register the number of people in total. And then also encourage your employees to also register at home, that others that would be participating kind of separately, so they also get information directly. If they're counted in your drill, perhaps they don't count themselves in that household drill. It's just a way of keeping the not having double counting. But really, we want everybody to register where they are and make sure that people are counted who are doing the drill. Okay. And then let's go to room 9, Genevieve, Pastor Cohen.
Hi, this is Genevieve, and we had a good group from all over California, from neighborhoods to CERT to the state and school district. And most of the suggestions that were shared were mentioned in our group. And we did have a talk about a neighborhood type of exercise where let everybody know in the neighborhood that you're going to have an exercise, create a list of different things that they could do, and at each household could select one of those items, and then when they're done, have a designated time to report back via Zoom. And because with COVID, you know, we don't get to see each other, we don't get to be with each other, but we could see each other via Zoom electronically. So that's one of the ideas that was shared that might have been a little different from what has already been shared in the group. Back to you, Mark.
Fantastic. Thank you, Genevieve. And finally, room 10, Jennifer Strauss, UC Berkeley.
Hello. So since I am the last group, obviously been covered already, we did have the park service in our group. And so they are business as usual because most of the employees are actually back there. So that was interesting to hear. We also had a lot of talk about social media, using WhatsApp or other social media things so that people can check in and show that they participated in the drill. One of the participants said that they were thinking about having a gift at the end, that if you go through the whole safety week and then you can prove that you've done your drop, cover, hold on drill, that you could actually get a gift that would help you do that. There was also another idea of using this remote drill for people working at home, again, as part of the culmination of safety week, pointing people towards ready.gov, and folding it a little bit in with COVID as people have attention to talk about preparedness and getting ready for things that could impact their lives. Also talking about flu shots and having people get their flu shot as part of the overall preparedness. So that's what we covered.
Thank you very much, Jennifer. And thank you everyone for those great ideas. What I want to do is just put this back up for a second. Again, a reminder that there is a survey we'd love you to complete after today's meeting ends. Go to earthquakecountry.org/Bay Area. We'll also send you an email link to it in the follow-up when we let you know that the recording is online and the PowerPoint files are on the page too. But no time like the present, and you can do that. Already go find that survey on the Bay Area page. Go to today's meeting, September 10th, and then you'll find that near the bottom of the page. And let's see. One other announcement I'd like to make before we open up for general Q&A. Hopefully you all know about our Earthquake Country Alliance Safer at Home webinar series that we've been having. We've had 3 so far. The next webinar is going to be on Wednesday, September 23rd. It's going to be all about retrofitting your homes, insurance, and other aspects of financial preparedness. And so join us for that. The registration for that will be opening up soon too. And the key thing is to get notifications of those webinars and these events is to make sure you join the Earthquake Country Alliance. Hopefully you already have. Go to earthquakecountry.org/alliance, the kind of dark orange red alliance button at the top. That's where you can find the join link. And we will have a very special webinar right before ShakeOut, well, 2 weeks before, what to do during earthquakes. And we hope to have that even many more people than we normally do. And we're even going to have sign language interpretation and other factors we're working to add on live captioning to these meetings too. Of course, ShakeOut, it happens then on October 15th, and then we're going to have step 6, which is what to do right after earthquakes to reduce injury and help those who are injured. And finally, the last of those will be in November. So that's, we hope to see you on those webinars. Finally, there are a lot of links and resources and ways to reach Earthquake Country Alliance and ShakeOut that you see here. And we do have a Spanish language website also at terremotos.org, where the 7 steps and everything that we have are there. And our goal is to increase that to our offerings in many languages. Daniel and Dina as chairs at ECA Bay Area. Do you have any comments from the breakout groups and how that went? And before we open up to some final Q&A.
Yeah, Mark, Dina here. It's always really nice to share and network with one another. We get so many great ideas, and we're just really appreciative of everybody taking the time to join us today. It really is important. The more we share with one another, the more experiences that we learned from to help us and help others. So it is all about us preparing ourselves so that we are enabled to help others. And that's really the biggest message, right? Neighbors helping neighbors. Loved all the CERT team talk stuff. We have a couple drills planned as well. One in September, one in October. And so it really is important to let people know too that you can do this anytime. And honestly, you should probably do it more than once a year, right? You want to be checking and updating your things, and our information changes and things change in our lives. And as we all know, and dealing with the pandemic right now, you know, and how we adapt to that. So thank you, Mark. We always appreciate all of your hard work at SCEC. And Daniel, do you have some other comments?
I want to support what you said, and I just feel that you know, while this year definitely affords all of us maybe some new hurdles or opportunities that we have to address as far as to advance our readiness goals for earthquakes, I think that frankly it could be a needed shot in the arm to you know, push us a little bit to think outside the box and be more creative, and maybe that might be a way to engage more people and reach more people. Those of us that work with the faith community would tell you that at first the you know, what was perceived as like a burden, which was to move their spiritual services online, ended up actually increasing membership participation in the spiritual services. And they realized there were a lot of people that weren't participating in services because of access issues. And so maybe this will open up a new conduit to reach folks that normally haven't been at the table for a myriad of reasons. And so let's look at this as an opportunity and not as a hurdle. And I'm really excited to hear on the other side what people learn or what they found to be exciting about the outcomes of this year's effort. So looking forward to that that follow-up meeting.
Great. Mark?
Thanks, Daniel. So with the time remaining, we had scheduled to have open Q&A. So you can unmute yourself, you can just start asking questions, or you can put it in the chat. You can, in the participation box, you can click the yes button. I don't think that there's a raise hand option. At least I'm not seeing it from my control panel. If anybody else sees that there's a raise hand option on, there is in the webinar, but maybe not in the meeting. But you can also click the yes indicator, and that will tell us that you have a question, or you just shout it out.
Let's see.
Hi, this is Janice. I'm just going to shout it out because a lot of people have put it in the chat. Mark, where did you get your kitchen shaking background from? You haven't specifically indicated.
It actually, so, you know, I work with the Southern California Earthquake Center, and this is a kind of an advanced animation. We worked with a software development company to actually take the shaking from a real earthquake and put it into a simulated environment of this kitchen. And so I'm going to see if we can put this out for people to use in this way. And I just, like you can do with really any video, if your Zoom setup allows, you can select a video as your backdrop. Like I have the backdrop we all wish we may really had behind us, like I have now, but not very earthquakey. But maybe if an earthquake happened and I was in this location, maybe the earthquake was offshore and that tsunami's on the way, so I would start going that way. go to high ground, go inland. So if you're along the coast, that's another aspect of what you can include in your shakeout drill too. You can imagine right after you drop grip or hold on that you'd want to get how you would simulate in a drill actually moving to high ground. Other questions?
I don't know, Mark, you bring up a good point though with the earthquake and being on the coast and knowing your tsunami points, right? Knowing where you need to be in your safe zones. So we all know Dave knows all that information, so we can ask Dave.
Yeah, and I noticed Daniel changed his screensaver right when we were talking about the tsunami.
Yeah.
Yeah, head to high ground.
There's a question from Winnie Fung asking if Washington State has this kind of organization. She moved to Tacoma, Washington from Southern California 2 years ago. Yes, there's a group called the Cascadia Regional Earthquake Work Group, or CREW. Not exactly the same, but same enough. And so you can look that up. CREW, Cascadia Regional Earthquake Work Group.
Just so everyone knows, this is a beach called Broken Bones Beach in on Maui, and it earned its title because of all the tourists that show up in the emergency room with broken bones every year. And you can't hear the audio, but there's the lifeguard screaming, "Get out of the water! Get out of the water!" So anyhow, shore break is the closest thing I got to a tidal wave.
Oh, so now Dave changed too. I want to ask Dave, was your other picture from yesterday?
No, actually, that was a sunset without the smoke. We had no light. It was a little orange darkness all day long. Yeah.
Yeah, Mars.
Yeah, I did put a video from our tower up on Twitter from Coastside CERT. I did a 360. You can see how orange and dark it was. That was at 1 o'clock in the afternoon.
Oh, cool. I'll have to go check that out.
There's a question from Sherry Kidd. Is this group also in Southern California? So Earthquake Country Alliance is statewide with 3 current and 1 soon to be, in fact, we're having a meeting for it this afternoon. I'll show this slide again. Just so you can see kind of like the mapping. So Earthquake Country Alliance started in 2003 in Southern California. And then after the first shakeout, which originally was just in Southern California, we expanded statewide with the Bay Area, and also what's called the Redwood Coast Tsunami Work Group for northernmost California. We're actually having a conference this afternoon. If you're in Ventura through Santa Cruz, San Luis Obispo counties on the coast and would like to join that, you could email info@earthquakecountry.org, and I will send you the information. But you might wonder, why is there a whole bunch of gray counties? And really, it's just that there are active groups that have come together along the coast and along the San Andreas, and where earthquakes maybe are more frequent and more hazardous. But we are definitely statewide and support participation, encourage participation from all parts of California. And if you're in that kind of gray area and you'd like to organize a local group, let us know too. info@earthquakecountry.org. You go to the website, the Alliance section, and you can get the links to each region's pages.
Mark,
Thank you for putting the CREW link into the chat also. I'm sorry, go ahead.
This is Sherry Blankenheim. I just wanted to ask if the drill audio is in a format that could play in the background of a Zoom meeting. I don't know what's required.
Yeah, that's what we're going to have in the PowerPoint slides, to where it will play, when you click that link, it will play through Zoom. You have to, when you share anything, Zoom 101, when you share something in Zoom that has sound, you have to click a button on the lower left to play the computer sound in order for it to play through to the others who are on the call.
Cool. Hey, Mark, it'd be cool to put the fault line map over our map of the country alliances to see, which is, to your point, we're all on the fault lines.
That's right. That's a really good idea. I do have another animation here. I'll find that this is kind of the evolution of our understanding here. I'll close my camera of our detailed understanding of the fault system of California, from really focused on San Andreas to all the other faults that we now know and that we have understanding of. Oh, this is not showing. I'm sorry. I had, because the I need to stop sharing, and
oh, there you go. And
I need to well, there is another video. You can see that. Oh yeah, you can see it now. Mm-hmm. So the color coding shows the faults that have a higher likelihood of having fault rupture in the next 30 years or so. Not where shaking is going to be greatest, but just where the rupture is going to be possible to happen. Then the shaking will actually extend, the experience of that earthquake even further. So yeah, we'll organize some of these that could be backdrops, especially for ShakeOut. Any other questions before we end?
Mark, you've done a marvelous job with Sharon not being here and handling all of the tech side and the questions and everything. So great job.
Thank you very much. I really appreciate everybody on the coordinating committee really stepping up and being fantastic hosts today, and for everybody else who joined. Dina and Daniel, I'll give you the last word.
Stay safe, be well, wear your masks, wash your hands, and stay distant. We're all in this together. We can do it, whether we're drop covering and holding or anything else.